Hello and welcome to this week's Flipped Learning. I'm Miss Natalie. This week I'll be talking about reading with your child. As many of you know, in literacy lessons we have been reading The Lost and Found. I'm going to show you a variety of questions that you could ask of your child to enhance their understanding of the text. You can use these questions for many different books. First of all, vocabulary questions. Try to ask your child if they can find specific words or sentences within a text. Ask them why they think the author has used certain words and talk about their understanding of the word. Ask if they could find a word that means the same as something else, or even if they could find an adjective. Make sure you look at difficult words and sound out each letter or each sound and blend them together so that they can pronounce the word accurately. Once there was a boy who found a penguin at his door. The boy didn't know where it had come from, but it began to follow him everywhere. The penguin looked sad, and the boy thought it must be lost. So here you could ask, can you find the words that show that the penguin isn't happy? And get your child to point to the correct word, which in this case is sad. Ask them to use the picture to help them too. Inference questions. Try to ask your children, what do they think something means, or why do you think that? Why do they think something? How, when, and where do you think something might happen? Ask them how the author has made us think in a certain way. So the boy decided to help the penguin find its way home. He checked the Lost and Found office, but no one was missing a penguin. He asked some birds if they knew where the penguin came from, but they ignored him. Some birds are like that. So on this page, you could ask, why do you think the boy was helping the penguin to find his way home? See what your child can come up with. The boy asked his duck, but the duck floated away. He didn't know either. That night, the boy couldn't sleep for disappointment. He wanted to help the penguin, but he wasn't sure how. So here, you could ask why they think the boy is disappointed. Make sure you explain the meaning of tricky words to help your child to understand the text. So make sure that they understand what the word disappointment actually means. Retrieval questions. You could ask, who are the main characters, or who are the characters within the story? You could ask about the story setting. Get them to use the pictures to help them. Ask which is their favourite part of the story and why. And also ask if they can tell you some facts about the text, and that will really show if they have understood. The next morning he discovered that penguins come from the South Pole. But how could he get there? He ran down to the harbour and asked a big ship to take them to the South Pole, but his voice was much too small to be heard over the ship's horn. Here you could ask, which character comes from the South Pole? And ask your child to think about the different modes of transport and talk about why some would not be suitable for getting to the South Pole. Together the boy decided he and the penguin would row to the South Pole. So the boy took his rowboat out and tested it for size and strength. He told stories to the penguin to help pass the time. Then they packed everything they would need and pushed the rowboat out to sea. Here we could ask about the setting. So where are they? Where is the setting? And who are the characters? Predictions. Making predictions. So where do you think the characters might go next? What do you think they might do next or say? Ask them, do you think this book what do you think this book will be about and why? And also how the book might end. Who do you think has done it? And what might a character say about a certain situation? They rode south for many days and many nights. There was lots of time for stories, and the penguin listened to every one, so the boy would always tell another. They floated through good weather and bad. When the waves were as big as mountains, here you could say, do they manage to get where they need to go? Or how might the boy and the penguin be feeling at this point? Again, use the pictures to help you and to help the child to understand what is happening. Until, finally, they came to the South Pole. The boy was delighted, but the penguin said nothing. Suddenly it looked sad again, as the boy helped it out of the boat. So here you could ask, do you think they will find the penguin's family? And why do you think the penguin looks so sad again? Remember, your child may not get the right answer every time, but if they aren't sure, ask them to have a guess, and see if they can put themselves in the position of the characters. That might help as well. Ask them what the pictures mean, and always use the pictures to help them understand what is happening. Also, look for clues within the text and clues within the words that the author uses. Then the boy said goodbye and floated away. When he looked back, the penguin was still there, but it looked sadder than ever. Again, here, you could ask, why do you think the penguin looked so sad? It felt strange for the boy to be on his own. There was no point in telling stories now, because there was no one to listen, except the wind and the waves. Instead, he just thought. And the more he thought, the more he realized he had made a big mistake. The penguin hadn't been lost, he had just been lonely. So what do you think his mistake was, you could ask? Quickly he turned the boat around and rowed back to the South Pole as fast as he could. At last he reached the pole again, but where was the penguin? The boy searched and searched, but he was nowhere to be found. So why do you think he was trying to be quick? And where do you think the penguin might be? Are some more questions that you could ask. Sadly, the boy set off for home, but then the boy saw something in the water ahead of him. Closer and closer he got, until he could see. Why was he leaving? And what do you think he could see? The penguin! And this is the end of the story. So how do you think the characters are feeling now? Again, get your child to look at the pictures to help them describe what they can see, or what we have just read. Sequencing questions. Make sure you're asking your child what happens at the beginning and at the end of a story. See if they can retell the story in a few words, or tell you what their favourite part of the story was, and order the beginning, middle and end. Remember, you can use these questions for any storybook you read at home with your child.